Power Project family, how's it going? Now, you guys know that we have had so many individuals come onto this podcast, doctors, therapists, coaches, that have talked about the importance of getting your blood work done. Mark's done it, Andrew's done it, I've done it, and when we got our numbers back, let me tell you that we didn't know what the fuck we were looking at. That's why we partnered with Marek Health, owned by More Plates, More Dates, Derek from More Plates, More Dates. And when you get your blood work done from Marek Health, a patient care coordinator goes over your blood work and gives you an idea of the things you need to get done specifically for you. This is why they are the premium telehealth clinic to go to, because they don't give you cookie cutter plans. They give you plans that are specific to you, your numbers, and your blood work. Andrew, how can people get it?
Yes, you guys got to head over to marekhealth.com. That's MAREK health.com. And if you are manually checking out, you can use promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off all of your labs. But if you are interested in TRT or HRT or something that you need additional help with, you're going to be speaking to somebody on the phone. And with that, you can still mention promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off all of their recommended labs. Again, that's at marekhealth.com. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
Yeah, let's do a
Segway. I didn't know that Segway was a real word. I thought it was just the name of those
like the guy
things.
the guy that created it like died on it or something, didn't he?
Oh, God. That's horrible.
Yeah, I think yeah, I had some shit like that. I don't know. Maybe
That's not funny.
maybe look it up.
Is that true?
I don't want it.
The inventor of the Segway died on his invention. Andrew, look, man.
I don't want it.
Are we going?
Yeah, we're going.
Dude, I'm gonna die on a bench press with a slingshot on. You know,
Mark, knock on that fucking wood. No, seriously.
Well, but not till I'm 99.
Is that how you want to go? Like just like you're going on your last slingshot bench with 405. You're just like,
Oh, that's it.
Oh,
actually, no, that's a hell of an obituary.
We knew he shouldn't have went for that lift. Goddamn.
How'd Mark Bell die? On a bench, doing what he loved.
so you know how Google will like auto-populate your Google search?
Yeah.
So all I started typing was how did the inventor, and then it filled out the rest.
That's great.
Segway of the Segway die, and accidental fall off a cliff while riding a Segway.
Jesus. It's too weird.
That sucks.
Anyway, how's your carnivore in this going?
It's
Andrew?
going well. This morning I actually pooped quite a bit, but it wasn't the carnorrhea like I was expecting. This was so I started on the 31st of December just because like what the hell, I'll just get started now. Over the weekend was cool. I've been eating a ton of chaffles and of course lots of steak, lots of eggs. But what I'm doing differently this time around, because last time all I did was like ground beef, steak, and then I got watery poop like crazy. So I am having a couple of vegetables, but I'm not having a ton. So like I'll have like a little bit of stir fry with dinner, and then in the middle of the day I've had a protein shake and a banana, and everything's been totally fine.
Nice.
Yeah, but other than that, like it's still very very carnivore. Yogurt too. Sorry, I did have yogurt. Yeah,
Dude,
yogurt.
what's up with those Jordans behind you?
Oh, you mean these Jordans?
Jesus.
Oh my gosh! And Nsima, can you tell me how I got
look
those?
Insane.
Hey, so we got our homie Ray, right? Mark is a shoe head. Okay, Mark be having wild shoes, but I'm not much of a shoe head because I've just never taken the time to learn them. But my friend from jiu-jitsu, Ray, was like, you know what, Nsima? I'm gonna get you guys decked out in some really fresh like J's and kicks. He owns his business with his daughter. It's a locally like family-owned business where he buys just like really rare shoes and he sells them to people, and he's hooked us up. And if you guys are interested, you can check out his Instagram, Faith's Kicks. If you could pull it up,
yeah.
Well,
I'll link
energy
it.
Something.
Yeah,
NRG Ray is his personal Instagram, and his daughter's Instagram is Faith's Kicks, where they have pictures of all of them. Hey, I'm gonna put this up here real quick.
You won't check this out.
Hi-ya!
Oh, bam.
These are the. Let me look this up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I was telling Nsima, I'm like, I'm afraid because like I've never had nice shoes like this.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say some dumb shit, and
You don't want to scuff them.
I'll get flamed by people like, oh, you're crazy. Those are the Jordan 1 Retro 3, 4, 5, 6, 7s.
Jordan 1 Retro High Shadow White, like High Shadow 2.0, some shit like that. But
See, nope,
bruh.
that's it. You just got flamed.
Somebody who's a shoe head's gonna
Somebody
be like,
threw their
You got it
phone.
wrong.
yeah, you're gonna flame me for that. But hey, yo, check him out if you guys are interested in like really dope kicks. Check him out because he's got some good shit, man.
Yeah, these will be the nicest shoes that I've rocked since ever.
Same.
So thanks a ton, man.
Anyway, carnivore stuff's going pretty good for myself as well. And people that want to follow along, please Check out my Instagram, which is just at Mark Smelly-Bell, sharing information all day long, as much as I possibly can, showing you guys how to cook and the different foods that I eat. And we're going to keep going over it and going over it and going over it and going over it until you guys, you just, for me, for my, Smelly's carnivore version or whatever diet, is just be chill with it. Don't sweat it. Don't worry about if you eat some vegetables or if you have a little dressing or a little bit of, don't worry about it too much. Just try to get yourself to stick to mainly eating meat as much as you can.
I just have to bring it up because on the Carnivore podcast that we do with Vor, we were talking about how G Hughes has been out of stock. So I went to Walmart. It's not like it's back in stock fully, but I found 6 on the shelf. So I bought 6. So maybe, just maybe, the drought's over with G Hughes sweet chili.
Okay.
I'm going to blur. I'm going to beep everything out that I just said.
Tell me about this Pewdiepie thing. What's going on?
So Pewdiepie made a video. Every fitness celebrity influencer is lying to you. And pretty much, we'll play some of it, but pretty much in the video, he's going on about how like everybody in fitness is, or a lot of people in fitness are on steroids. Or a lot of these movie stars who are getting big for these roles. And it's unethical for them to talk about, getting big or whatever because they're probably on drugs. And it was an interesting video. And again, it's this tough spot because I get how people should be honest about it. But videos like this make me, I always think about myself when I was younger. And I always think about if I saw this, what would I think? Because when you look at sports, like people don't look at getting big or just gaining muscle as a skill-based endeavor. But they look at, getting good at soccer, getting good at basketball, getting good at baseball. When you see individuals who are at the professional levels of these sports, people are like, wow, that's crazy. Like, first off, those athletes are outliers athletically for the most part, but they're outliers who put a lot of time into their sport. So people don't automatically say that this individual has taken something to attain that skill level. But when it comes to the endeavor of gaining muscle, because there are a lot of influencers who are in the field and they are taking drugs, right? Like Greg Doucette's been honest about it. But we don't look at gaining muscle as a skill thing. We know that there are outliers, but everyone does compare themselves to people. And Pewdiepie was saying, hey, it's when you compare yourself to these people, you got to understand that they are on drugs. It's unfortunate, that outlook.
I would like to personally congratulate Pewdiepie, Greg Doucette, More Plates, More Dates, and any of these other motherfuckers that are exposing this stuff nearly 20 years after my brother did in Bigger, Stronger, Faster, and nearly 20 years after I went on the big silver screen and talked about it very openly. I don't know why this is news to anybody, and I don't know why this is so compelling still to this day, because we talked about it a lot in Bigger, Stronger, Faster, and I thought like, hey, this will kind of open things up and it will open up dialogue and people will be more open, which they are.
Yeah.
But for some reason, this is still insanely like polarizing. And I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that Pewdiepie says in this video, but I did agree with some of it. I don't really think that just because somebody doesn't want to come forward and talk about their business, I don't necessarily think that that is misleading. However, in the case of like Chris Hemsworth, he is selling some programming. He is selling something. And I guess that is probably what he's pointing out. There's probably a lot of influencers that are sharing one thing. Hey, I did this through these particular lifts and this particular nutrition, but I'm not going to mention anything about what else I do. I think that's, I don't, again, if you're being asked, if Chris Hemsworth is being asked whether he does it or doesn't do it, and he's lying, I think we can all agree that lying's not a great character trait. But also, I guess, like, what else is he supposed to say? Like, how is he supposed to answer the question? If he says it, then it just means the guy next to him that says that he's not, even if the guy is a result of work and genetics and other components, that guy's labeled as a liar, as my co-host who stands right next to me is always labeled and accused as a liar. So it's like, you know, I guess I don't always even know like what the information helps with. Because as Andrew pointed out before we got on air, go ahead and repeat some of that. Like you were kind of saying, like, I don't think it's a big detriment to follow along with what he's doing and being a young kid and getting in shape. It's more positive, right?
Yeah. Well, what he was saying in the video is because he was pointing out Chris Hemsworth's app, right? You can sign up, you pay for these workout programs and stuff. And what PewDiePie is saying is like, oh wow, all these teenagers think they're gonna get big and jacked like he is. They're gonna look like Thor. He's like, but they're not even gonna get close because he's taking stuff. And my argument is like, is it really a bad thing if a young kid is a fan of the Avengers, his favorite Avenger is Thor, and he's not working out, but he's like, wait, I want to work out like Thor. So then he starts exercising. Maybe he builds a habit out of it. The chances of him looking like Thor, like who knows? But is that really a bad thing that a young kid is going to start developing the habit of working out because he was influenced by Thor? Does it matter if he's on or off?
How many people were influenced by a comic book? The comic book is completely ridiculous. The Incredible Hulk. I mean, how much did Incredible Hulk actually weigh? Doesn't he weigh like a couple tons or something like that?
Yeah, Hulk is tons. Yeah.
Yeah, he's fucking huge, right?
My generation knew Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Right? We all be looking at, and PewDiePie called out Goku in this video, and that shit made me cry. Like, I don't think Goku's on. Goku takes Senzu beans, man.
Yeah.
Those Senzu beans, I don't know if you watched it.
I didn't, but
Goku will get in a fight, and you'll get his ass murked.
It's like spinach, huh, for Popeye?
Like, all they do is they'll, hey, Krillin, get me a Senzu bean. Gets a Senzu bean, he's like, like he's
and
right
he's
back at
strong as shit.
Right back at it. Allows him to immediately recover. Like,
what the hell's in those beans?
What's those Senzu beans?
Creatine?
Hey, but I wanted to say something real quick. It's interesting because, okay, I want to look at this. I think every kid wanted to be a pro athlete in some sport. So a lot of kids, they'll get into rec league basketball. Let's use basketball. And they're like, I want to be an NBA player when I grow up. Okay, so they play basketball in elementary school, middle school, high school. They work at it. They work hard. They get to high school, maybe they start to see the gap in their skill versus some other guys. They get to college and they really see that gap. And then they're like, okay, maybe I'm not going to play in the NBA. You look in the NBA, you got these 6'6", 6'9" fucking giants with crazy athletic skill. But this kid who spent his life playing basketball still got really fucking good. There's this guy, his name's The Professor on YouTube. You know who The Professor is, right?
Professor.
Right? Yeah. He's an and one kind of legend kind of dude. He ended up playing an and one basketball, but he's a short white dude. Got really fucking good at basketball. Couldn't make it to the NBA because he didn't have the genetics or the height, right? But still, he'd be fucking murking dudes, and he's really, really good. This is the thing. When you take yourself, because PewDiePie said something pretty interesting at the end of the video, don't compare yourself to people. They're lying to you. I agree with the first part. Don't compare yourself to people. The second part.
And then just period.
Yeah. The second part, they're lying to you. Some people are lying to you. That is the truth. Some people are lying to you. But the thing is like, when you have a dream of doing something, and this is where it's kind of different in fitness, it's different than other things because people still don't look at gaining muscle as a skill that has genetic disparity. We can obviously see the genetic disparity of basketball players. We can obviously see the genetic disparity. Look at fucking Lionel Messi, greatest, I believe he's the greatest soccer player on the planet. He's a short guy, but you look at the ability of his quickness and his ability for him to move his feet. Doesn't matter if you're playing soccer since you were 5. You need some special skills to be able to move the way he has moved. Right? There is a disparity there. But we're still not willing to understand that there is a genetic disparity within fitness, and steroids is not always the thing that's going to, there are some people that are going to be, that aren't going to need steroids to get to a certain point. And then when they do take steroids, they'll get even higher. We don't understand, people cannot wrap their heads around that in fitness, but they can with everything else.
Yeah, and I think that might be the case with some of the baseball players years ago. Like, it appeared that Barry Bonds, like, it didn't look like he utilized performance-enhancing drugs, which, by the way, he was never actually found with performance like, there was never an actual defined link. And the greatest baseball player of our time, and maybe of all time, just disappeared from the sport. He was never released. He was never banned. Like, nothing ever happened. He never even retired. He never had like a day where he like retired.
Did they have anything in his, because I mean, I've heard about that, but did they ever find anything in his system?
They never found anything. on him.
Huh.
I mean, they found some shit out about his trainer and the guy that coached him and stuff, but like
There was a lot of smoke, but they couldn't see the fire.
yeah,
basically.
yeah, there was a lot that connected him to it, but yeah, stuff like that is like, anyway, it appered that Barry Bonds was a Hall of Fame baseball player. He crushed it.
And he's still not in the Hall of Fame?
He probably will never be in the Hall of Fame because of the accusations, which is silly, right?
Fun.
Anyway, it was clear that he was like a Hall of Fame style baseball player before he had this run of smashing these home runs. I mean, he was smashing home runs when he was young anyway, but when he got bigger, when he got thicker and he was accused of doing steroids, who knows what he did or didn't do, it did appear that he did make some sort of change. And how do you, like, as you're an older athlete, how do you make that change? It's a kind of a natural thing to kind of think, okay, well, maybe something else is at play here other than just he decided to like lift weights out of nowhere, because he did get really big and he did become a completely different baseball player. But to your point, he was already a Major League Baseball player. He was already professional and he was already playing at the highest level. He was already a multiple time all-star, Gold Glove winner. Like, he was smashing home runs, stealing bases, super athletic. His entire family is super athletic. I mean, he's got genetics along with hard work, along with environment. I mean, all the components to be a legend, and he made himself into one. But maybe in the second half of that career, he took a little something to extend his career. You start thinking about other people that have been accused but not really found. Peyton Manning with the growth hormone thing, I believe there was like some got shipped to his house or something like that, and not much came of that. But again, it does make some sense for some of these athletes to maybe take stuff in their latter years. Does that mean that like somebody can't admire? I always think like just admire the person's work. You know, and morals and ethics, hopefully they come from somebody in your household. And morals and ethics, hopefully they come to, you know, from family members, people that are real close with you, maybe some good friends, and you start to decide and think for yourself on what your morals and ethics are going to be. Maybe even you research like philosophy and Jordan Peterson, and maybe you find like a thing that feels good for you. But to try to, I don't even know why in the first place, why there's so much placed on celebrities and so much placed on sports in the first place. I think it's absolutely ludicrous. I think it's craziness that these are the people that were like, why would I seek out morals or integrity from The Rock? I shouldn't put that on him. You know, I shouldn't put that on John Cena. I shouldn't put that on any, you know, I happen to know those guys a little bit, but like,
because they're motivating. You know what I mean? The things that they do
are very
like,
motivating.
When you look at it,
why isn't that good enough for us? Why do I have to worry about whether the guy cheated on his girlfriend when he was 15 or whether he used a racial slur or like any of it? Like for me personally, like I feel like I'm a grown ass man, and I don't need that to come from them. And I think we're looking in the wrong places. Like if The Rock motivates you to work out, that's fucking awesome. Then go to the gym and work out. But we're never going to know whether The Rock's actually on steroids or not. He's not going to ever talk about it. Why would he? And I don't think there's anything positive. The only way that he would come out and say something is if it was real problematic and he's like, hey, you know what? He and then all of a sudden he wants to speak out against them because he either had a health issue or he's like, you don't really get addicted to steroids. But if something weird happened, then maybe, but we're not going to ever know. So why not just be motivated by what he does or just don't follow him anymore?
I get that. What I tend to do is I just look at the consistent actions of an individual that's doing something dope. That's what I pay attention to. But I can understand, like, for example, I can understand why people get mad at people for lying about stuff because, I mean, especially in like Hulk Hogan era and like, you know, when Bigger, Stronger, Faster was made, if you're a kid who...
Those guys all used to lie about it all the time. It was hush, hush. They didn't talk about it.
Right? Like, for example, let's say someone wanted to be a pro bodybuilder and the person they looked up to was Ronnie Coleman. If you think you're going to get as big as Ronnie Coleman, anybody, like prime Ronnie, without having to use something, you're delusional. right? And if you believed that until you were 20 years old for some reason, then magically you found out I can't get as big as Ronnie without, okay, that sucks, right? But I can understand that. But outside of that, it's like some people are lying about it and some people are literally just that big. You know what I mean?
And is The Rock someone that's lying about it? Like I personally haven't really heard him talk about it.
He hasn't even addressed it, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever addressed it. I do know that John Cena outwardly talks about the drug tests that he has. He has, I believe, hundreds and hundreds of drug tests that have been done, and he sticks them on the wall in his gym.
But you've known John, man. You know how this is the thing. Outliers exist. You look at John's wrist. You look at John's hands.
Yeah.
These things aren't like these attributes aren't attributes that at an injection or a pill or whatever can build.
Right.
Some people are built different. LeBron James, John Cena, these individuals came out of the womb different types of humans. Those exist. There's
100%.
There's no drug that any of y'all can take that'll get you that.
No, it's not. Yeah, it won't do that for you. It won't. And I think that might be the worst part of it all is I think that people think that steroids are going to do something really crazy or magical for somebody. They can certainly help. They can help make you stronger.
And bigger.
Yeah, and bigger for sure. But like when it comes to strength, I think your best deadlift is 755. Well, utilizing performance-enhancing drugs and wearing a squat suit, I deadlifted 766 pounds. And you clearly on that day that you did the 755, I mean, if we were both to train for deadlifts even right now, you would smash me in them, you know? And I utilize stuff. And I know that everyone wants to say that you lie about it and that you use stuff too.
Yep.
The point is there going to be some people
carbs.
Yeah, you guys fucked up, by the way.
There's going to
We'll talk about that later.
There's going to be like, you know, you're not going to be able to keep up with some folks that are just natural anyway. And it's not helpful though to blame something on genetics, or it's not helpful to just say that the person's lying about it. I think in the case of the people that you will never know certain things about, I think you're better off just still being motivated by them, keeping it more on the positive. Like, again, The Rock. Like, I'm unaware if he has said publicly, like, I don't ever use that shit or whatever. Like, I don't think he's ever said that. If he did, then I would retract some of the statement. But I think, hey, most of what he's doing is like really positive. And for any of these guys, like if they're actually lying about it, then maybe, you could be a little bit more skeptical of like what it is they're trying to promote or what it is they're trying to sell. But as I mentioned earlier, I think we can all agree that lying's not great, but who lies? Everybody. Everybody. I mean, it's a great quote from Bigger, Stronger, Faster from Barry Bonds. He says, you have all lied. He says, all of y'all have lied. And he's like, you better go clean out your closet before you go and come and clean out mine. And I think that is important. Like that's a thing that you should think about is like, why am I placing so much value, so much morals on these people? And why am I giving them such high value assignment? Why do I care if Tom Cruise took something to be a little bit more jacked or Hemsworth or whoever it is? Who gives a fuck? Why do you care so much about it?
Yeah, I still think that people truly believe that once you inject something, you're going to turn into fucking Ronnie Coleman.
And that it sits with you for life. And I'll tell you I mean, look at me right now versus the way I looked, 8 years ago or 10 years ago. 10 years ago, like the memories pop up or whatever, like 10 years ago, a picture of me squatting 1,050 popped up. I looked way different then. I was way bigger. I was on way more shit. And even just because I'm on a reduced amount, I can't hold the same amount of muscle as I did. That would be awesome to be able to still hold on to that much muscle. I was fatter, but I had a significant amount more muscle, maybe like 20 or 30 pounds more. Like that's a lot of muscle to have that much more. I mean, if you look at some of the old videos, some of the pictures, my traps are up by my ears. My shoulders are all like giant and rounded out. I'm chubby. I'm like bloated. But along with the fat, I also had a lot more muscle on me too.
But even when you did, was it the BSN shoot? You're fucking jacked, dude. Your traps in that shoot were ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I was like 265 or something still, or 260. That's kind of the biggest and leanest that I've ever been. But that's on a really good hefty dosage of stuff.
Nice cocktail.
And so if let's just say like from that picture, let's say that I just got off of everything, within 2 years, almost all of that would be gone. I'd have to, now I could hold on to it, or I could hold on to some of it, but I have to work really, really hard, and I'd have to be really, I would have to be really deliberate with my training. I'd have to be really deliberate with everything, because once steroids are out of your system, you don't get to hold on to the muscle mass. You don't get to hold on to that. There might be cases where people hold on to a little bit. Somebody gains 30 pounds of muscle. They're on shit for 4 or 5 years, and maybe 10 years later, they're still holding on to an extra 5, 10 pounds, maybe. But I doubt it. I don't even think that you're going to hold on to much anything.
And that's why every time we have this discussion on the podcast, we always mention, if you guys want to pull the trigger on that, okay, do it. You understand that there are risks. You understand that there are potential health risks and things you need to take into account. We've talked about that countless times. But we've also mentioned, Mark, you didn't choose to use anything until you were 25 years old, and you already trained for 12 years.
Absolutely.
You were 225 pounds, natural and jacked at that time. Then you hopped on. So if you do stop fully, you'd probably be 225, 225, maybe 230, and lean and jacked. Like, because that's what you had. So should we watch any of that? Oh, that's fucking crazy. That was the BSN thing, huh?
Yeah. No, we definitely can watch.
Let's watch some of that PewDiePie video, yo.
Let's load this up.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is if I didn't take anything, I might weigh a similar amount to what I weigh now. Having this lower body fat percentage would definitely be a challenge. So it would be hard for me to gain this, to weigh this amount, which is only like a little bit heavier than I was years ago, but I'm heavier and I'm a lot leaner. So this helps me. But because I chose to take stuff at 25 and really just hardly never come off, I don't really know what the consequences of coming off right now would be. I don't think from a mental and physical standpoint that it would be a good idea, but it is definitely things that I've thought about before. Like what would happen. And I'm not afraid of like losing muscle mass. I'm not afraid of being different than I am right now, but I feel like I'm also not ready. Like I buried the old fat mark like not that long ago. So like I'm still working myself through a lot of this process. So I don't know. We'll see what the future brings. Let's check out this PewDiePie video.
All right. So this is about halfway in, and we're going to speed up the sound, so it might sound a little funny.
You put in the work. You have to put in the hour. You need to know what to eat. These are essential to growing muscle. But if this guy was natural, and this is what he was able to accomplish in a year, if he then put on steroids on top of this, he wouldn't be able to move. Steroids is so effective that data shows that you grow more muscle. And I didn't even know this. You can grow more muscle by not working out on steroids than someone working out regularly.
Oh, they love that study.
If you're discouraged about working out, hey, keep that one in mind. And I don't want to go into, is it good, is it bad? My whole point about
it's a very short study, by the way.
I really do have an issue with it, but I do think it's worth mentioning that the side effects of steroid usage is real. Okay, it's not good for you. I don't care what anyone says. And what's the point anyway?
I agree.
I love this tweet summarizing it. Motherfuckers doing steroids, not even for sport, just to be swole at weight. So even though actors like Camille isn't necessarily selling any products like Chris Hemsworth is, he is still selling this idea. And as part of Hollywood, the way it works, if you're promoting something, you have to do all this media for it. What he did as part of his promotion is he went to Men's Health, and they did a video showing what's in his gym.
Let's pause it for a second. So definitely there's stuff to talk about with Chris Hemsworth, having a program to sell. But again, like I think it kind of matters if he's saying like that he's doing things naturally and that it's only through this like programming and he's out there pitching this thing. Well, that seems like that's very misleading, right? It definitely does. But the other thing I'd like to address is this notion that if you're doing it for a particular reason, you hear people say this all the time. I mean, people will openly say, I'd take it for a movie role. I would take it to make a lot of money, and it's like, well, maybe maybe regular people are taking it for the same reason that you're talking about. They want to be more substantial. Like, what's a movie star? They're more substantial than everybody else. Like, that's where we place them. I'm not saying that they actually are, but that's where we place them. They have higher value assignment in our society. For example, if a really bona fide movie star just walked in here and someone came back here and they'd go, yo, Tom Cruise is in here, or whoever it is, The Rock, whatever. The podcast would shut down. We'd fucking like stop and we'd go run up. Joe Rogan just walks through the door. Pew, we're over there.
Yeah.
That's how much it matters in our society, right? That's how much it's a thing. And so I think that's why you hear people all the time, oh, I'd do it if I was a professional baseball player, basketball player. I'd do it if I had the opportunity to do this, right? But then for some reason, it's not okay if somebody just wants to feel better about themselves. Somebody just wants to be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. They're not even competing in anything. They're not trying to use it to gain some sort of unfair advantage over somebody else. They're just simply sick and tired of being fat, or they're sick and tired of being skinny. They're sick and tired of being skinny fat, and they want to make a change. But for some reason, that notion of, oh yeah, I totally get it, it's for a movie role, I would do the same thing, that's kind of bogus to me, I think.
It is. And one other thing is too, he mentioned something like Chris Hemsworth program, right? I don't know if he's out here saying this is what got me looking the way I do, but is the knees over toes programming the reason I'm as big as I am, or the reason why you are as big as you are?
Right.
No, but we add that stuff in because now our joints feel better and we're springier and we have a little bit more resilience and longevity. Did running help you gain muscle? No, but you're starting running and it's helping you feel better. And it's like years of powerlifting and training. And some people are going to say roids, but like for me, played soccer majority of my life, jiu-jitsu, a lot of lifting, and things shift. Right. But we're all at different phases. And where we are right now is a culmination of the years and decades of what we've done before. And to try and put that into one single program, like no one can do that. Right. You don't know what got somebody to where they were. But the thing is it's the thing that we keep coming back to. You cannot compare yourself to anybody. That should be where his statement ended. Don't compare yourself to people, but look at their actions. Look at the things that they do, because I guarantee that there is something within their daily actions, their daily habits, their mindset, and their belief system that is pulling them farther and farther and farther away from you. Pet Project family, how's it going? You guys know who Stan the Rhino Efforting is. We've had him on this podcast 3, 4, 5 different times. Well, we've partnered with Stan and Vertical Meals. It's going to be awesome because now you guys can have Stan Efforting's cooking and his nutrition sent right to you, right to your door. Andrew, can you tell the people how to get it and save?
Absolutely. You guys got to head over to verticaldiet.com. At checkout, enter promo code Power Project for free shipping. And if you order 16 meals or more, you're going to get 2 additional ones. Again, that's at verticaldiet.com, promo code Power Project. Links to them down in the description, as well as your podcast show notes. Let's get back to this podcast.
Nsima, have you ever seen this before? Have you ever been around some women and they see a girl that is very attractive?
Yes.
And and you can't help but kind of look, and your buddies can't help but kind of look. Then what's the talk amongst the women usually?
They talk shit.
They talk shit, and they're like, I bet you she's a hoe. I bet you she's a real bitch. I think The Rock is like the ultimate hot chick. Like people are trying to submarine that motherfucker.
So
they're trying to take him out whatever way they can. He's on steroids, or they just try to find anything that they can to try to take him out. And it's just like,
and then they'll give him some praise. Like, yeah, but he's cool. Like, but he's on steroids. Like, yeah.
I'm sure he's putting in some hard, he is doing cardio and all that.
That's always the backhand comment. Like, I'm sure he puts in the work, but it's still the steroids.
And I heard this so much in powerlifting, when I was competing, and I may have been guilty of it myself, but like we would talk about certain guys and we'd talk about certain people and be like, this guy did a 2,600 pound total. Yeah, but so-and-so did 2,700. And as soon as somebody did 2,700, you say, yeah, but that guy's on so much shit. Meanwhile, all of us may as well just be standing there with syringes popping out of our fucking shoulders. We're all on a good amount, and we have no idea what the other person is taking or doing, You hear this a lot, just in normal conversation where somebody gives somebody praise and then right away somebody else thinks that means something negative about them. And so they're like on the defensive. Somebody's, says, oh my God, Andrew, you look great today. I love your shirt. And then you're like, oh, maybe my shirt sucks. That's kind of the way our minds work in some weird way. And I think, The Rock is somebody that's just a target. People are going to try to, what's bad about The Rock? Like, go ask your girlfriend or your wife, what's bad about The Rock? And they're going to be like, nothing. He's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to keep playing it?
Sure. Yeah. So he's talking about
Camille Nanjiani
and the Men's Health piece that they did on him.
Oh, the gym fridge.
He talks about drinking beet juice. Guys, you just have to drink beet juice. Are you eating enough protein? That's just what you like. Who are we kidding here? It feels so stupid. It's like they're trying to come up with every reason they can find to hide the fact that they're on steroids. Like, they even go through some sort of electroshock thing. Like, is this a joke? This feels like a comedy sketch. No, not sir. I electrocute my biceps. Bro, just own up to it, pussy.
That was
when
good.
he goes hard on him, that's so funny.
All you have to do is wake up at 4 a.m. That's the secret. Like, I'm not trying to downplay people's hard work. Like, all of these actors would be way more ripped than I am, even without steroids. I just don't like this facade of I just have to drink. Like,
he's not trying to downplay their hard work.
Shut the fuck up. I remember when Robert Pattinson was announced that he was going to be Batman. He made some interview saying that he didn't want to work out to become Batman. Even I had the reaction of like, that's ridiculous, bro. You're going to be a superhero. You have to work out. Pussy. Come on, Robert. Soy boy. Beta. Now that I understand how the industry works and what the expectations are when you accept these roles, maybe I'm putting words in Robert's mouth. I don't know. If I do, I'm sorry. But the way I understand this now is you obviously can't mention anything about steroids because then all these companies are going to start calling you and kick you out of their, I don't know. You're not going to get another acting job. Let's just put it that way. So now when he says, I think if you're working out all the time, you're part of the problem. The way I interpret him saying, I don't want to work out for Batman is I don't want to do steroids and I don't like the message that sends to people. That's how I read into that. I don't know. I could be wrong. And I guess that's the thing. Like, I don't know who's right or wrong here. Am I supposed to be mad at Chris and Kumail and all these Marvel people? But after all, they are just giving people what they want, which is seeing these actors transform in cinema. Are we at fault for having these expectations and lashing them out to other people?
Yes.
I don't know what the right answer is. I think it's great that influencers and lifters and anyone being transparent about their usage is great. It takes balls. And a lot of people just will respect you more for it. But people aren't going to be transparent because there are this pressure from companies to keep quiet and make us money, And that's why I think it's important to talk about these things.
Good points
Educate
there.
people maybe who aren't even part of these communities, but you still engage with it by just looking at it. It affects your subconsciousness and how you perceive yourself. And you compare yourself, whether you like it or not, to these people. Getting fit takes time. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't compare yourself to these people because they're probably lying to you anyway. That's it.
Pretty good. Yeah, I think he wrapped it up really well. Some of the stuff he was saying more in the beginning, I didn't really love, but some of the stuff he kind of wrapped it up with, I think makes a lot of sense. Not comparing yourself to other people, I think is a really critical thing, and just not getting too wrapped up in it. But the other part that he said about having like such high expectations for these people that we don't even know, we don't really know these people.
Yeah.
And that's something else to keep in mind. Like, why, like, I don't know, somebody's sharing information with you. You go on their Instagram every day. Let's say it's David Goggins, right? You go on David Goggins' thing every day. You're pretty pumped, right? And you're like, this is cool. He teaches me about running. He's super motivating. And then let's say he has a political statement of some kind out of nowhere. Like, he just has some sort of thing. He says, fuck masks. Like, let's not wear them. I'm not saying that David Goggins did say this. I'm just saying hypothetically, right? Now, some people, like, they get super like pissed about that all the way to the point where they don't follow him anymore. But it's like, you weren't following him based on that. All you got to do is just not like the post. It's not a big deal. Like, if you didn't enjoy it, then who cares? But we tend to like really hone in on that negative, and we really focus in on it when it's like, you shouldn't expect that David Goggins does every single thing that vibes perfectly with everything that you do. And you shouldn't expect that of anybody else. Somebody might have different political beliefs. Somebody might have just way different belief system. Most likely they're going to.
Yeah.
Most likely, like, Tom Brady is going to say something where you're like, what? fuck that. I always liked Tom Brady, but now all of a sudden you don't like him because he made this one comment. It's like, it gets to be kind of crazy.
It is really wild.
LeBron's a great example of that.
Yeah.
Because he's outward, he talks a lot about like racism. He talks a lot about politics, and there's a lot of white motherfuckers like, I don't like LeBron. They
Shut up and dribble.
Oh God. Yeah. That bullshit. They get all pissed off, and it's like, you don't understand. Like, if this guy's not talking, like, it can be really helpful for people like that to talk. And fuck it, man. He's just sharing his opinion, but you just because you don't like some of the comments that he says, or maybe you disagree with him, you can't still enjoy watching him play basketball.
Some people can't, because again, they tie in their belief with that person's belief. You know what I mean? Like, shit. I mean, one of my favorite athletes for his work ethic was Kobe Bryant. But when you learn about his case and what they said he did, and what I think I think there was a conviction with it, right? I can't wrap in my personal morality with Kobe Bryant's work ethic, right? Because that's a really good example, especially because like the way Kobe died and all that. I think a lot of emotions for Kobe changed. Like after he died, I think a lot of people were upset with what happened, and who the hell knows what happened. I mean, there could be a victim at play here, or it could have been, just some false accusations. Who knows? Mike Tyson, was accused of something similar, and it's like, well, I don't want to support somebody that has these like sexual or rape allegations against them. I don't remember what Kobe's case was in particular. Yeah, go look it up.
But it's like that's a pretty big deal. But shit, man, can I still appreciate what Iron Mike did in the ring? Like, yeah, I actually can. I can kind of, for me, I can pick between the two things, and I can say like, well, that's his out of the ring stuff. And he was he was supposed to be aggressive. He was supposed to be this like killer in the ring, and maybe he had a hard time turning it off. Maybe something similar was with Kobe, or who knows, some of these guys, they might feel that they're above certain things at a certain point because of the high value that we place upon them.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, I've already been seeing this, but we're going to start seeing even more and more and more young guys hop on TRT at 23 and 24. Why? I already saw some of this on TikTok. I'm seeing some really fit dudes like, yeah, I'm going to be hopping on this, I'm going to be hopping on that. I look at their physiques, I'm like, you look so fucking good right now. Why? What are you doing? Like, why are you going to mess with this amazing cocktail you already have going on? Why? Because they see some of these other guys that have this other end result doing it. People get too fucking wrapped up in the end result of what they want, rather than following a process for a long period of time that will allow them to achieve it. That's why a lot of people actually end up quitting on things. Like, a lot of people get wrapped up in the end result of like being a pro athlete, and before putting in a few years of work, they're like, this is actually fucking impossible. It's some of the individuals that just follow and do the work silently for a long time and actually get good. Some of them get there, and the truth is some of them still don't get there. But too many people now, in terms of YouTube fitness, are too wrapped up in the end physique, are too wrapped up in the end strength goals, that they need to do every fucking thing they can to try to speed things up, along with believing that steroids are going to help me get there faster. So why don't I just do that sooner? Because everybody's on it, right? It's fucking you up. It's fucking you up. I'm not saying steroids fucking. I'm saying this mindset is fucking you up. Because some people out here are taking steroids and doing it perfectly safely. We talked about that on the podcast.
Or as safely as they can.
As safely as they can, because like there's too much shit to that. Yeah. But so many young guys are so focused on that they're not allowing themselves to actually even build the habits.
I can't even describe to you guys how good it felt to do some of the things that I did. Like I'm so pumped. Like I hope that you one day do win jiu-jitsu world championship, because it's all the shit that you're doing right now that you'll start to kind of, at some point when you are doing well enough, to where you're not worried about what you're doing every single day. You'll be doing well enough to the point where you can reflect back a little bit and you can say, yeah, man, I fucking followed through on that. Like I can say for sure in powerlifting, yeah, there might be a couple of tiny things that I could have done better. But I examined just about everything you can think of. Even when it came to mobility, as soon as I met Kelly Starrett, I started for the first time in my life actually taking mobility seriously. But to go in the gym and to set goals and to be so hooked in, I saw a video the other day where I had Jessica edit a clip together for me because I want to show people the mindset. It's not the weight though. I think that's what people get so caught up in. Is the weight sounds miraculous, but it's not the weight. But I did like a 925 squat, and the next squat that I went to after performing the 925 squat, not so well, was 1,050. And the reason why I thought that was interesting is the 925 was done like shit. 1,050, like it couldn't have been better. Like I nailed it. But it's because of, again, it goes back to this idea of like having a skill set. I actually think that at the base root of jealousy, at the base root of anxiety, at the base root of depression, worry, I think it's just not being prepared and not having a skill set. If I have a strong enough skill set, I'm going to be less likely to be jealous because I can compartmentalize somebody giving a compliment to my boy Nsima or Andrew and not have it be something that's super negative to me. Or if somebody says something super negative to me, I can also, if I have a skill set of reflecting and deflecting these things off of me and viewing stress differently than I used to view it, then I can handle it just fine. That's why I talk all the time about like do more, be more. I'm not really saying like that I think that you should do so much that you're like overwhelmed and you should just keep taking on more and more stuff to add to your plate all the time. But I'm encouraging people that when you start to do stuff, you start to make something of yourself. And when you make something of yourself, you're on a little bit stronger ground. Now I don't have to worry about what you're doing or what someone else is doing. And I don't have to get caught up in that comparison because the comparison would be really paralyzing. You can always compare yourself to people that are better because you always find people that are... Use that as motivation. Yeah. Use that as motivation. Holy fuck, man, that guy's got more money than me. Holy fuck, this guy over here is in better shape than me. Like, this guy's older than me and he's strong. Or we got Sean Baker coming in and Stan Efferding. Two savages, two guys I admire a ton. I'm using that as motivation. I'm not like, oh man, I got to get my arms as big as Stan and I got to figure out how to be explosive and be able to go crazy on the rower the way that that Sean Baker does. No, it's motivating to me. I want to work towards not trying to be like them, but I want to work towards being able to do some of the things that they do, at least to some capacity, but I'm not worried about if I do it better than them.
Solutions, not excuses, man. That's the thing. Like when you look at something, when you look at Goggins running whatever, how many crazy amount of miles he's running each day, what kind of excuses are you going to give yourself that you can't do it? Or if that's something you aspire to, what kind of solutions are you going to find? What kind of processes, what kind of habits, what kind of fucking changes of your mindset are you going to find that's going to allow you to be able to achieve that at some point? What is it going to be? How are you going to live? Because most of these cats most of these cats are literally living in a state of excuses. I can't do that because of X, Y, Z, and Tren. Like, that's why I'm not there. That's why I can't do it. You know what I mean? So what are you going to do? You're going to find some solutions? You're going to give yourself excuses? You choose.
I think a good way to look at something like jiu-jitsu, or this is from a favorite person of mine, Jim Rohn, who has these just awesome sayings. And you could think of, if you think of jiu-jitsu in a similar way, like turn yourself into a black belt. And it's for what it will make of you. It's not to be a black belt, and it's not to go out in the streets and start like breaking people's arms and legs, because it's like, that's not even fair, and it just doesn't even make any sense. It's the process that will turn you into, literally, it'll change you. You can't be a white belt and go through the process and be a black belt and be the same.
Nope.
It's impossible. You can't go in the gym and be able to squat, bench, and deadlift 135 and then 5 years later be able to do a bunch of reps with 3 plates on all 3 of those lifts fairly easily. You can't go through that process without having it change you. You can't be somebody who's a person right now who's 100 pounds overweight and you lose 100 pounds. That will, I oftentimes say that things don't make you a particular way. But in this case, when you continually kind of push yourself through stuff that you maybe don't always want to do, but you do know it's in your best interest, and you gain momentum with that, and that habit gets to be so ingrained that it becomes part of your character, and it becomes a little bit part of your identity. You care a little careful with some of that, but like it does become part of your identity. That's when you know you'll be firing on all cylinders, and that will literally, it will make you different. Jim Rohn said, become a millionaire. His mentor, when he didn't have any money, because he was like, how the fuck am I figure out how to be a millionaire? His mentor told him, become a millionaire for what it will make of you. Just the process. Who cares if you ever get there? In that process of wanting to achieve that body, in that process of wanting to make that kind of money, is that process going to assist you with being better than where you currently are? That's all that really matters. And for some people, you might want to set the goal a little differently, because setting it too high might give you a little bit of angst, and you might have some worry and be like, oh, that's gonna overwhelm me. If that's the case, just chip it down a bit. And I think you made a post more recently about chipping away at stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought that was awesome, because that is what it is. That's what this is all about. The step by step, over and over again. And when it comes to like taking something like steroids, you can kind of view steroids as like, it is a little bit of a leap. You know, you're walking along, you're doing things step by step, and you go boop, and you take a little extra like leap forward. It does do that. It does propel you forward. It does give you an advantage, but it's not an unfair advantage unless you're trying to utilize it in a sport, or unless you're trying to utilize it in a deceitful way of some kind.
But honestly, like, okay, we know that with steroids, some people are better responders than others. But I look at the progress that some people have been able to make while being on, and I'm like, with a few, like, when you say it gives you a leap, I think for some people it maybe gives them a leap of a few years. Like, but even if they didn't, they would have still gotten there if they gave themselves those few years. So, again, my guess is some of you guys are in your 20s, early 20s or teens, thinking of that or watching this podcast. You got no reason to, because I guarantee you, some of these guys that are out, like, I always bring it up, Brandon Harding, they bring it up every fucking podcast because he decided to hop on 3 years into training. But honestly, the way that he looked before he hopped on, he looked really good. Afterwards, cool, but I think he still could have gotten too close to the point to where he is right now without taking anything.
A lot of the people
time.
A lot of the people we were mentioning on the show, I mean, aside from The Rock, who is 6'5" and just has a ridiculous frame.
Ridiculous, yeah.
And a ridiculous amount of muscle. But like I think he's always been that way. I mean, look back at the picture where he's got the mustache going, and he's like a kid, and his shoulders are like as wide as his fucking table, right? Most of the bodies that we looked at are fairly obtainable to some degree. Like Hemsworth, like looks pretty wild because I believe he's a bigger guy as well.
He is a bigger guy, yeah.
Like so sometimes the combination of being big and lean is a little bit more difficult, especially if you're coming from, you're 5'7" and you're 150. Like, it's going to be tough to be really, really big, but there's a lot of people that have worked their way through that. I don't know what Jeff Nippard looked like when he was like a kid. I'm sure there's pictures of him and stuff, but like he didn't look like he was that big when he was younger, and he's thick as hell right now. His
mom's a bodybuilder though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. His mom's, see, like, and he's got that background. But again, even with someone like him, people are going to be like, well, he's not telling the truth about it. And it's like, okay, you're just going to pull that out every chance you get. I don't know what to tell you. You're right. You can't be,
Give me a break.
The Rock at 15.
Look at the width of those shoulders, dog.
Now look, those shoulders aren't those shoulders aren't even necessarily built from training. I mean, I'm sure The Rock started at like 11 or 12 or something with his dad lifting at, but like
he looks awkward, like an awkward, like underdeveloped kid. You know what I mean? Like he still has a lot of maturity to go.
But look at his hands and look at his shoulders, like he was destined to be like a bigger person.
Yeah.
There's just people that are that way. There's some people that are destined to be, unbelievably brilliant because of whatever the hell, some of the genetic components. But The Rock's dad was a professional wrestler. The Rock's grandfather was a professional wrestler. He knew that like weights were just part of or for him, he felt that weights were just part of life, just the way somebody else might think that, having perfect English and perfect grammar is part of life because both their parents are professors, or a kid is randomly proficient at like playing the piano. I mean, there's going to be some advantages that people kind of start out with. But again, I don't think it does us any good to point at steroids or genetics, really. I think, again, utilize these people as a motivator. Utilize the things that they are saying as some motivation for you, rather than sitting there and hating on it and being like, well, The Rock was always that way because he was huge when he was 15 and I'm not going to be able to. It's like, all right, you know what? Just go fuck yourself.
Goes back to what Andrew said. I think also you said this too. It's a tough place to be, because if you care about your personal progress, what does it serve you to say, well, look at his genetics, or he has good genetics? Does that serve you? And I ask you truthfully, like, as much as we know that, hey, The Rock does have some great genetics. His daddy was like this big black wrestler and his mom was Samoan. And if we know anything about Samoans, they are some big, strong people. But if you're somebody who's trying to make some progress in terms of a realm of whatever it is that he's doing physically, does it serve you to say steroids and genetics? Maybe it makes you feel better about what you don't have, but it doesn't get you any closer to that.
Doesn't make you any better.
Let's think about this real quick. PewDiePie. Looking at his YouTube growth, PewDiePie had massive YouTube growth for a few specific reasons. One of them is because when he started his YouTube channel, I think he was in the UK or something, or he was in Sweden. But then, since it was the start of YouTube, he actually moved to another country, right? He built a following and then he moved to another country. And unbeknownst to him, what YouTube does is they show mainly your videos to people in your country and then they span it out. But he already had a big in that country and then he moved to the UK and then he just fucking blew up there. That's one of the reasons why his YouTube channel exploded all over the world, because he lived in a few different places that allowed for it to grow massively. Someone wants to build a YouTube channel and they look at PewDiePie. Either they can look at how ridiculously consistent that man has been at making YouTube videos over the years.
Yeah, I think it was like minimum 3 videos every day for X amount of years.
You could look at that. Damn. Or immediately you could say, well, I'm not planning on moving countries. There's no way I can have a following that big, because I'm not going to really move from here to here to here to build an audience in different areas. So I'm not going to, PewDiePie was kind of lucky. He also started in 2009 or 2008, which was the start of YouTube. And right now it's 2021. So why should I even make a YouTube channel in 2022? It's 2 ways: solutions or excuses. You're going to do either one, and whatever you do, either you'll be smarter because you know exactly why and all the excuses, or you're going to be a solution-oriented dude or woman, and you're going to figure out how to make it work.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're asking, like, what does it serve you? It just serves you up that perfect doctor's note to get out of practice.
There we go.
That's all it is. It gives you that perfect excuse to not even bother with it.
It's not bother. It's steroids.
Yeah.
I think we did. I don't think we played the little clip of PewDiePie talking about The Rock, and maybe we should just kind of
let me see if I can. Oh, here we go.
Slip that in there as well.
Just slip it in real quick.
Just slide her in there.
Just slide it right in.
Dude, I've
Tell
been
someone
eating.
that doesn't like that The Rock is most likely on steroids. I mean, the guy's like what?
Oh, fuck.
He's approaching 50 years to pack that kind of muscle. Even with steroids, it's damn impressive what he's able to accomplish. And the response is no. He puts in the work. He puts in the hours. Okay. Yeah. No, obviously.
Come on,
that's what I'm saying.
PewDiePie.
But I'm also saying he dips his fingers in the vitamin gummy. Maybe he takes 2. Maybe he even takes 3 gummy bears. Who knows? We don't know because he doesn't talk about it. That's the whole point. There's no transparency, and that's why I think it's important and not to
Just pause it for a second.
Make myself.
I just think that like saying that there's no transparency is kind of crappy, just because talking about steroids can be polarizing because there's so many people watching The Rock. I don't think it helps him. I mean, does it help The Rock to say, hey, you know, at night I like to smoke some weed to go to sleep? Like, it's just he's admired by so many people. I mean, he does on his TikTok or on his Instagram rather, he'll drink his tequila here and there, but people are pretty accepting of that drug. People are weird about steroids. People are weird about anything. I don't know why this is a thing, because alcohol kills millions of people every year. But for some reason, it's just more acceptable.
Yeah. It's a socially accepted drug.
But to say that he's not transparent, I think he's not talking. He's not trying to tell you that he's not on steroids. Like, I haven't heard him deny it. So if there's video of him talking about it, or him, especially more recently, talking about that he doesn't do it, then maybe he is being a little deceiving when it comes to that particular thing. You can keep playing it.
But I do think it's important for someone like me who has an audience that isn't necessarily into fitness to bring attention to this kind of thing. Because what I find is that in the industry, it seems like most people in some way are engaging with steroids. Everyone sees it. It's obvious to all these people, but a lot of people don't know about it. You even get people saying like, Arnold, he never did steroids. What are you talking about? Like, bro, he openly talks about it. You just can't get that physique. If it looks unnatural, it is unnatural. That's a good. And if you think that, this kind of steroid use is a thing of the past, I got bad news for you. It's probably more prevalent than ever. You go on Instagram and you got 18-year-olds looking like fucking orcs. Again, if it ain't looking natural, it ain't natural. And I don't even necessarily have a problem with it. It is the lack of transparency that I have an issue with, especially when these Instagram influencers are selling their epic workout routines. Bro, just use my code and you can also look like me. Like, shut the fuck up. But what I do find as well, luckily, is that a lot of great lifters and a lot of YouTubers are open about talking about these things. This guy, Noel, made this video, which you might have seen. It kind of went viral, I think.
I am not a natural bodybuilder, and I have a major problem with other influencers that are not as transparent about it. Not only does it create false hope through naturally unattainable results, it discourages many people from changing their lives. It also risks people's health for their financial gain. These same influencers enrich their lives by promoting and selling you their diet and training plans, making it seem naturally attainable to reach their chemically enhanced physiques when it's not.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, I think he summarized it. That's pretty much my whole point of the video.
Does Noel sell anything?
He sells supplements from Rise, and
Oh, that's right. Okay.
yeah. But I mean, he's being he's being honest and open. Like, he's an IFBB pro bodybuilder, but it's like,
I think it's helpful for someone like that to be open about it, because number one, like, being on YouTube is way different than being The Rock, or being any of these movie stars.
Got it. Yeah.
Just too many negative things can happen sometimes in the case. Again, people are really weird about steroids. That's why there's so many videos. That's why we're talking about it right now. But I think, when it comes to, some of these other people that don't have the status of like The Rock, they can openly talk about it more. But I think it is helpful to have some people on YouTube talking about it authentically, do set, more plates, more dates. There's been a lot of people over the years to talk about it openly, and that way people do know and understand. And people that want to get TRT, or people that they've been training for a long time, their results haven't gone the way they wanted them to go, and they're looking to do something slightly different. Maybe it's not a bad idea to look into it. But again, you also have to really ask yourself some serious questions, like, how dedicated are you really to any of this in the first place? Like, have you worked out, 3 or 4 days a week for the last 5 years consistently? I mean, if you haven't strung that together, then you probably shouldn't even really consider it. What would be the reason? Unless maybe you're thinking maybe some of it might be a motivator, then again, might not be a bad idea to like just look into it and to gain more knowledge about it, so you can make a good, educated decision on it.
yeah.
But I just think that people think that it's going to be this magic thing. They think it's going to change everything for them. And if you don't have your eating intact, going on steroids is going to make you, a lot of times it's going to make people just look more bloated.
And an interesting thing is like just echo chambers. We've talked about how we all personally curate our existence, but we also curate the things that we pay attention to in our feeds. And when you look at certain channels, like when you look in a comment section from, what's his name? Shredded Sports Science. I think he's this guy on YouTube. He puts forward great actual fitness information in terms of training, in terms of like nutrition. But he also is like, he makes like, I think Shredded Sports Science. There's him. He has a great YouTube channel. But also like on Greg Doucette videos and like some of these forums, you look at like the echo chamber of kind of negativity. You know, it's somewhat unfortunate because as much as Natty or Nots, they get clicks, and there's an aspect of maybe helping people understand that not everybody that says they're natural is. There's also a continued aspect of, again, it's just like massive levels of disbelief in oneself. Because, for example, Shredded Sports Science, he's made a lot of Natty or Nots, and he's a fit guy himself. But you can tell that he's not going to be a pro athlete, right? And that's not a problem. We all have different skill sets. But when a lot of people make some of these videos, it's within the lens of, I would not have been able to achieve said thing, so said thing must take drug use. Greg Doucette is open about, like, he looked great when he was natural. But there are certain individuals that I know are natural that are bigger than Greg was when he was natural, like Sam Okinola, like Kendall, who just won WNBF Worlds. There are quite a few guys that are actually natural that are bigger than Doucette before he chose to take drugs, right? So automatically people are going to be like, oh, that's not humanly possible. That's one thing I continue to see. But I just always go back to, how does this serve you? How does this continued, I guess, just pointing fingers and echo chambers of absolute negativity, how does that serve you in terms of your goals? If I was paying attention to a financial channel that was talking about how evil rich people were, or like, et cetera, and these people are like, oh, they're rich just because they're doing this and like scamming this and blah, blah, blah. How would that serve me in getting rich or making money or providing for my family? It doesn't serve me, so I don't pay attention to it. And it's just a hard place to be, because it's like, when I was younger, I was kind of stupid because I believed a lot of people were just, I didn't even understand what steroids were. So I was just training without paying attention to it, but that helped me. So there has to be a level of just curiosity, but also being naive to all of the shit that might be around, so that you can just do the work you need to do to get to where you need to get.
I would imagine that at 15, The Rock wasn't on steroids and he looked extraordinary.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked different, right? I mean, the guy was always going to be extraordinary. So I think to look at some of these guys and think that this is a huge knock on how extraordinary they are, I don't know, maybe The Rock would like not be as heavy, you know, like if steroids didn't exist or something, or if he, you know, I don't know his business. I don't know if he ever took them or whatever, but just supposing that he did, maybe he would be smaller if he didn't take them. Maybe he'd have a little bit more body fat on him or something, but like it's hard to just sit here and like pick any of that apart. And I think, again, the main things to focus on, and something that I have found really helpful for me when getting in that negative mode of thinking that somebody has something that you really want, or being jealous, or any of these things, or even making it just decisions in your day to day. How does it help? How does it hurt? How does this help? How does it hurt? You can think about nearly anything that you ever do in your life. You could be really, really pissed about something, and you could think, I'm going to throw this fucking pen across. I am so, okay. You throw the pen across the room, like, what? Okay, how does it help? I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe it did get something out. But you could also, if you can take a beat, if you can take a second, you might be able to say, how does this help? How does this hurt? Okay, let's diffuse. Let's not worry about it. And later on, when I go in the gym, like, that'll be a good opportunity for me to get some of this out. Or shit, man, I'm upset. I'm pretty pissed. I should just at least go for a walk, and go stomp around as you're walking. It's probably a lot better look than you chucking some papers across the room or something like that.
Yep.
Take us on out of here, Andrew.
Sure thing. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. Please slap that like button and subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. And drop some comments down below. We want to hear what you guys have to say about today's content. Please follow the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. My Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where are you at?
And Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter.
Can you do the people's eyebrow?
I can't, dude. I just look weird when I do it.
Wait, do both eyebrows go up? Or, you kind of got
I just
one.
can't do it.
I can't do it, dude.
You kind of do it.
No, I can't do it. I don't even want to try.
I can kind of do
try.
it.
You do it better than me.
That's
Yeah,
a good one.
yeah. I wish I could.
Some people
I
can
can't
do it with like one eyebrow at a time.
And then go back and forth.
I don't know how to do it.
Try
I
one,
can't do it.
one more time? No. See, because your hat's covering anything.
Dude, that is a sick TikTok. you
People's eyebrow.
You should definitely do it because everyone would be like, that's not the people's eyebrows. All right. Well, we did find something that Nsima can't do, but I'm sure he's going to practice. Just like you practice your video game endlessly until you destroyed your like ex-girlfriend on it or whatever it is. That's one of my favorite stories.
Let's not.
I'm at Mark Smelly Pal. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness never a strength. Catch you guys later.
Oh my God.